Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have watched my previous video so you can kind of piece together little by little of not only my situation but other situations that people are going through. And what I want to talk about is how we can get through this stuff. I really want to put out there that I'm willing to help anybody that is going through a difficult custody battle or dealing with parental alienation or manipulation, narcissism, and dealing with the courts and all that stuff. And a lot of things that I've learned is through failure and the lack of having legal advice. I'm a good person. I give people the benefit of the doubt, and that was my problem through this. So I want to try and give as much advice as possible. I'm not an expert. I'm not able to give you legal advice. I can give you personal advice. Specifically Minnesota, Scott County. I can share what I've gone through. My situation may or may not be common. I don't know what everyone's business is and what other people are going through, but I imagine there are some similar cases. And I could talk about this for hours and hours and weeks, but really today is going to be about how I can help you guys as parents or grandparents or spouses or anything that you're going through right now with child custody and child support issues. And if I don't know or you need some advice, I will make a video specific to your question. If you leave a comment, I am more than willing to try and do the research and find out and point you in the right direction, or give you some input on what I would do. Just like I said, I've learned everything through failure, and my situation is very, very difficult. Today I'm actually on lunch break sitting in my friend's car that he's been nice enough to let me borrow over the course of the last year. Kind of a long story short, I had to consolidate some vehicles so I can pay my ex some money, and I've gone through and I've paid her cash, and I gave her a free car, fixed it for her, no charge of course. Continued to pay her insurance bill and phone bill out of good faith through this process, and she's done nothing but strip me financially and try and prevent me from seeing my children. So that is kind of a tough situation. That's a whole nother video in itself. I want to talk today about what this process may or may not look like and how difficult it might be. And I wanted to get some video with some daylight. Normally I'm working, I leave the house at about 7 in the morning, come home 8:30, something like that. So with that being said, kind of the first step of the process is, and a lot of people wonder, what now? We separated. Do we just figure it out on our own, or do we go to the court system? Go to the court system right away. Figure it out. I'd recommend getting an attorney right off the bat. Be prepared to shell out between $2,000 and $20,000. It really depends on how long and how drug out it's going to be. In my case, I spent about $5,000, and that got me about nowhere. And unfortunately, I had hired a poor attorney. I do have some recommendations on attorneys based on some free consults that I have received through this process. I've consulted probably dozens of attorneys. After my initial attorney, I went with the third one that I found, and it was a mistake. It was a mistake. Get the courts involved, make everything black and white, run it like a business. Sometimes that can be difficult because the ex has some personal vendetta out against you, or doesn't appreciate what you do for them, and you want to make sure everything's documented properly. So I guess it starts with filing a motion with the courts to establish parenting time and child support. Now, if you are 50-50 custody or as close to it as possible, and you both make equal amount of money, don't let anyone tell you that you have to be responsible for paying child support. Don't allow it. They say that the court system's not biased against fathers. I beg to differ. I've been a stand-up father for 10 years. So I know this, and I walked into my first and second court dates, and I was gender biased against right away. They automatically assumed that I was there to get out of child support and didn't want to have anything to do with my children. And I was 100% wrong. They are biased against fathers, depending on who you talk to, of course. Now, the judge I had was very open and very non-biased, but the county attorney and child support officer and those people were very biased, and it's unfortunate. Start the process, get an attorney, talk to them, document everything from the moment you see your kids until they leave. You know, when your weekend or couple days or whatever your agreement is wraps up with them. And this goes for both mothers and fathers going through custody situations. Document your time with them. What did you guys do down to the hour? For a couple hours we worked on homework. For a couple hours we went to Chuck E. Cheese. This is what happened. Even if one of your kids or your child gets hurt or something, or falls and scrapes your knee, document it and document what you did to help remedy that and how you made them feel better, and go through that. It's very important for a judge to see what kind of parent you are. In my case, me being there for my kids for the last 10 years, all around, being the sole provider was not good enough for the courts. I made that failure and didn't document what I was doing with the kids. Even though there was police reports documenting that mother was calling cops on me because I wouldn't answer the phone while I was at Chuck E. Cheese. It's ridiculous, really. I mean, things get really petty in custody situations, and I hope and I pray that nobody is this petty and this all stops for the sake of the children. The next step is, after that, you know, consulting an attorney, going through that process. You'll start off with like an initial case management. You sit down, talk to a judge, try and figure stuff out on your own. If you can figure something out on your own, judge will kind of put it in place, see how it works until your pre-trial or till your trial, whatever. When you get to your pre-trial, they'll go on the record. Here's what it is. Here's what it's going to be. Is it working? Great. Perfect. Then they put it in a court order, and then they move on to your child support arrangements and what needs to be done with that. If it doesn't work, then it goes to trial. And that's kind of when all that documentation stuff comes into play. And documentation alone doesn't help your case necessarily. You need some factual evidence on why you think you should get more parenting time or whatever. And a lot of cases that I have seen and read, I've done a ton of research, they lean more towards the mother because mother is naturally the person that does the grooming, the cooking, the cleaning, whatever, right? It's super stereotypical of not only the court system to feel this way or act this way, even though they say they aren't and they're not allowed to by law, but at the end of the day, it's what happens. And sometimes that's a benefit, and sometimes that's not a benefit. You know, I was the sole provider in my case, so I spent 10 to 12 hours a day at work providing for my family, and I'm not fit enough to be a parent that can hold a majority of the custody. So mother gets, majority of the custody. She gets on county assistance because her income's low, and now the county and the state's coming after me for those funds, which at the end of the day would have been less expensive for me as the previous sole provider, because it doesn't cost that much to raise a child as much as what they want to take. They are going to be taking over about half of my net income. And if you watch my previous videos, you kind of start seeing that and kind of what happened and where I'm at, and the reason why I'm at where I'm at. So you go through that process of going through trial, make sure you have everything documented. If you can get audio recording, video recording, and that kind of stuff, if you think it's going to get sticky, it'll be really important. Attorneys, find a good attorney. It's going to take some time to find a good attorney. The good ones are usually busy like crazy, and they don't probably charge enough. I made a mistake. I only consulted 3 attorneys before I found one that I wanted to go with, and I was super confident, liked the guy. I spent $5,000. I had to take out a loan, and it got me nowhere. It literally got me nowhere. Now, don't come into a case saying, I want full custody, other parents a pile of crap, whatever, because that's not going to get you anywhere, and that's not what's best for the children. It's best for the children is possibly see both parents. Now, if there's a safety issue like drug addicts or alcoholism or something along those lines, abuse, that would dictate trying to get full custody for sure. That's not in the best interest for the child to be around a parent that has a drug addiction. The best interest for the child to be ask the courts to have that parent to seek counseling, therapy, and allowing that person time to recoup themselves from that addiction. Addiction is tough. I know people who've gone through addiction, and that doesn't dictate that they're a bad parent. They just need to get their life on the right track. And yes, it is absolutely their fault, and things could have drove them to that point of addiction and abuse. Or there's really no excuse for it. It's not okay, but at least give that other parent the benefit of the doubt and allow them to seek counseling, therapy, and those kinds of things, treatment for addiction, alcoholism. Allow them that time so that they can recoup themselves, and that'll be better for the children long term. They really need to look at that stuff, and the courts do. They look at counseling and therapy. That's another thing is when you start going through this process, get your kids into counseling and therapy. It will help them. It'll help them understand their emotions and what's going on, because sometimes mom and dad are so enraged by everything going on that their judgment is clouded, and they say, well, dad's not here because whatever, right? My ex said that dad's not here because he needs to work on himself. Well, no, that's not true. And I know she wasn't telling my kids that because what my kids had told me when I still had them. And I know that's not true because of mutual friends and family that told me how their mother would talk about me to the children. And I'm not saying anybody's perfect, but I have been a stand-up father and a stand-up guy that has stuck around through thick and thin through this process. and through the children's lives, and was very engaged. And like, once again, if you see my other videos, you kind of understand of where I'm at and where I got here today and how I got here today. Through this process, like I said, it goes to trial. Document everything. If you're paying the other person, the other parent money, get a signed receipt from them. Bank statements aren't enough. If you're paying their bills, get them off your bills. 100%. Get them off your bills. Don't pay their bills. Just because you can prove it doesn't mean anything. Just because you can prove that you paid it doesn't mean anything. So that doesn't go towards the children. Even though you might think it does, like me paying a $200 insurance bill for my ex every month. I was like, okay, well, here, I'll just pay your bill. It's still in my name and whatever. Well, I'll just pay it, and you can just use your extra money rather than paying a bill towards the kids. Well, see, I learned the hard way. I have no excuse for it. I should have done a lot more digging, a lot more research, and my attorney was not helpful on that information. There's a lot of different situational items that come up through this process, not only handling children and what they're feeling, and handling your finances, to handling the custody case overall. Like, what do you do? Like, she's showing up at your work, she's showing up at your house, she crossing boundaries, all that stuff is very difficult to deal with. And I made a brief video on alienation and that kind of stuff, but it takes time to work through those things. So if it's going to be a long, drawn out battle that you have a feeling, and I would anticipate it, I really would, because it doesn't always go super easy. Please find yourself a good attorney. Shop around. It's going to be really important for you. They're going to be able to tell you the information you need to know. And like I said, I'm here to help. I want to give you guys as much advice, and I want you guys to learn from my mistakes, because no child should have to go without their parent, and no parent should have to deal with mentally or physically abusive ex, or this narcissism, manipulation, alienation stuff. I mean, it's not fair for you as a good parent, and it's not fair for the children. I'm willing to give as much advice as I can. Once again, I'm not a legal, I'm not able to give legal advice. I can give you advice based on my perspective, my personal situation, things that I've read and seen. I'm going to be making several videos. Please comment and ask questions. I want to produce information. I want this to get out into the world for everyone to see and feel and hear and touch. I want there to be some alertness to this topic. I came across a bad situation, and it sucks. What do you do? So what I'm doing with this is to try and spend the time to help anybody else that I can. So please comment, leave questions that you may have. I'll do my best to help you out. I've brushed up quite a bit on Minnesota, and I can give you my experience in Scott County. And like I said, it's been a rough go, going on 2 years now, and we just got child support established. I would also encourage you to like, share, subscribe. I'm going to keep trying to work on, content, different topics. If you can comment and leave a topic for discussion, I would appreciate it 100%. Try and not drag these videos out so long. Keep them super brief. 20 minutes is quite a bit of time, and so I really appreciate the time that you're taking to spending and watching this video. Thank you.